Hello, lovelies. Welcome to Horror 421, the podcast, with your host, your friendly small-town horror author, Charles Campbell. Sit back, relax, and enjoy the frights in this week's episode.
This episode of Horror 421, the podcast, is brought to you by Terror Tour. Music is a killer. Virginia Morgan is the lead singer of a band called the Valley Rats. They have embarked on a regional tour. There is excitement in the air, but there's also something else. One by one, members of the band receive ominous letters at each stop. At first, they think it is a harmless prank staged by a fan. Soon, they learn it is something much more sinister. The band will have to come together to play the show of their lives if there is any hope that they can survive. The Terror Tour. Terror Tour can be found at valleyboypublications.com by clicking on the Shop tab. Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Horror 421, the podcast. Today, I have a very special guest. I've admired her work from afar for a little while. I've seen a few of the movies she's been in, but she is a filmmaker, she's an actor, and she's a podcast host, and she does all kinds of cool shit. Her name is Iabou Windimere, and thank you for coming on the show today, Iabou.
Glad to be here.
Well, I hope I didn't butcher your name. I think that's the way you pronounce it.
Yeah, you did it great.
Awesome. Well, for our listening audience, to start off the podcast, if you could give us just a little bit of background about yourself, how you came up into the filmmaking and what kind of led you in the horror genre. So I'll be quiet and kind of let you give us a little background, then we'll have a conversation.
Well, so I've been doing acting for a while. I've been acting since I was a kid, mostly more plays. I didn't get into film until I actually moved to Cincinnati. Actually, the story of how I got into acting is kind of hilarious because I was an extremely shy kid. My mom would be like, "Oh, hi, I'm Brenda, and this is my daughter. Where'd she go?" I was so shy. So she had signed me up. I want to say maybe I was 10 for this place called the Melon Patch Theater in Florida. And I was never the same since. It was an acting camp. I just totally came out of my shell. It was the most amazing thing ever. I met all these other people who were also creative and silly, and it just changed my life. So my mom has joked every now and then that she's not sure if it was the best idea to send me to the camp. And it's great too because I think just doing the acting helps you in everyday situations. I mean, being a shy person, you would think that it would be terrifying to be in movies, but really, especially in film, it's like you and the camera and a few people around you in that moment. And whenever you zone in on your character, you don't see anyone else around there. You don't even see the camera anymore. It's the coolest thing. Like when I watch movies I've been in, it's like I'm watching it and it's from a totally different point of view because
Right.
It's almost like I have those memories of doing those scenes like they were real. It's really exciting. But doing plays and stuff, I eventually got into film in Cincinnati when I moved there. Like I said, I grew up in Florida. And, Cincinnati, it's a huge horror scene. It's just they love horror movies in Cincinnati. And I did a bunch of 48-hour competitions, acted in anything I could get my hands in. I did a series called Capes, which was one of my favorite things I've done. I did that pretty early on getting into film, and it was very successful. It was on if I can remember the name of it. It was on this site that was very new. I don't even think it's around anymore, but it was as soon as this Cape series had went live, it was we got all these views. It was crazy. So that was the first major thing I actually got paid for as an independent film actor, which is crazy.
Well, I looked over your bio and it's really, really impressive. I host two podcasts. I host this horror podcast and I host a musicians only podcast, and you could be on either one because when I'm reading this, you play the flute, the piccolo, the electric guitar. You can play the clarinet, the harmonica, the saxophone. Uh,
Yeah.
that's pretty cool. Tell me a little bit about that and how you came up in music. I'm segueing a little bit
Yeah, that's fine.
into
No,
music, but yeah, I'm very interested in that kind of stuff.
it's funny because I recently have been thinking about getting back into doing a lot of music stuff. Like I just bought a program and I'm learning how to use it to make a lot more music. I used to make music for some of my films, like maybe like 5 or 6 years back, and I've kind of gotten away from it.
Okay.
But yeah, growing up, I learned how to play the flute was my first instrument, and it just kind of opened up this really cool area for expression for me for music, and just kind of got carried away from there. But I have a if I thought about it, I would have brought it. I would have grabbed it for this, but I've got this vest that's just filled with awards of band awards
Oh, wow.
from competing, and it's funny because I'm not like a competitive person really, but I'm competitive with myself.
Right.
Always trying to push myself, but yeah, I really enjoyed the whole thought of just getting you get a piece of music and then you have to play it, and there's that performance aspect which I love with acting as well. And I did so good that there was one time I had done competed multiple solos in one day, and by the
Right.
end there was one where I wasn't very prepared for. It's a hilarious story, and the judge, had seen me so many times that day, and I played it off so well, like I was just tired and exhausted, but I just this one piece I had not had the time to study. And she was like, the first thing out of her mouth is, "It's so obvious that you knew this piece so well."
Right. Right.
Totally folded. Um,
Oh my God, that's hilarious.
yeah. I
Yeah,
also have I also have one of those awards is for playing cowbell. Uh,
it reminds me of the SNL skit. Yeah,
yes, that's why I always
Blue
bring that up.
Blue Oyster Cult. Yep, more
Yeah,
cowbell.
yeah.
Nice.
So I actually got an award for playing cowbell. It was in jazz band, but
Oh
yeah, it was a
yeah,
lot of fun.
I would have that on the wall. I definitely would have that on the wall.
Yeah,
That's
I used
pretty
to do
impressive.
that. I've thought about like framing that one, and if I could find a picture somewhere of myself playing cowbell, that'd be hilarious.
Wow. Well, you are certainly an accomplished filmmaker, and I'm a small town horror author. I usually introduce myself, but I have a little promo that does that for me when I come in. But and I read a lot of independent horror authors, and I watch a lot of independent horror films because I go to like the Days of the Dead convention in Atlanta every year, and I'm selling my books, and I'm always looking for new movies to watch. And I didn't discover you there. I discovered you from a film that I picked up. I forget where I picked it up, but it was one of Henrik's movies. And I got this on Amazon. It was Haunted House on Sorority Row.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, yeah, and you weren't in it very long, but it was a cool scene with you and Joe. So, from an independent actor and filmmaker, tell me some of the challenges you've had along the way in producing independent films, and do you have a couple of cool stories you'd like to tell in creating some of these? I'm going to bring up a couple more that I've watched, and I'll dig into those a little bit more, but. Just curious because you are so multi-talented. Uh, I have so many things I want to ask you, but I'm trying to shoot them all out at one time.
Oh, that's fine. Yeah, yeah. Oh, geez, oh God, there's got to be so many stories.
Yeah.
There was the first story that pops out. I actually did was in this film for Yamaha for their music school, and they so basically we filmed this whole film. I was it was called 50/50, and I was an assassin. And when we filmed it, it had to be like 10 degrees outside. And I was wearing like these really tall heels and this itty bitty mini skirt,
Yeah.
parking garage. We were there for hours. And there was one shot where I was in that, I like, it must have been like 20 minutes, I think. And like I said, it was 20 degrees out.
Oof.
And I hadn't moved in the longest time. And we finally got in the shot, and I realized, I was like, guys, I can't feel my feet.
Oh man.
I had stood there in like 20 degrees for so long, and I was so concentrated on, like trying to keep warm, trying to not think about being cold, and I just didn't realize that like I had gotten a little too cold.
Yeah.
So and the worst part was it turned out I think there was some sort of issue, some sort of technical issue had happened, like with sound or something. We had to reshoot it,
Oh no, that sucks.
and it was like maybe only 10 degrees warmer. But that time I got smart, and I brought a pair of sweatpants. So literally between scenes when we reshot it, the sweatpants would be up or they'd be down at my ankles, or would take them off to get my feet. It was so funny.
Nice. Oh my God. I couldn't imagine. Yeah. I'm a wimp with that stuff. If I'm cold for too long, I'm like, screw this. I'm out. No way.
Well, it made me like really aware of like planning for filming and as an actress. I whenever I'm on the director side of it or producer, like behind the camera, you think more about things to look out for and things to
Yeah.
take care of your actors and stuff. But when you're on camera, sometimes you don't think about it as much. But it helped me to really like think about communicating. Like if it is 10 degrees, say, hey, are you guys gonna see my legs in this, because I'm gonna cover up so I can
Yeah.
get warm. It just made you have to think about it. No one sees that on camera at all.
Yeah. I guess it just depends on the shot. If it's from the
Yeah.
waist up, then you're good.
Yeah.
Well, let's dive into the acting piece a little bit before we get into the directing and some of the other stuff you've done. What led you down the independent acting path? What was your first major role in an independent film?
So, something that's always been really close to my heart, looking back, was this movie called Psycho Killer. And I don't know, have you had a chance to watch that one
I'm
before?
writing it down. I haven't seen that one. I've seen
It's
quite a few of yours.
actually, it was so hard to really find a copy of it and watch it, but I actually had found a copy a couple of years ago, and I talked to the director, said, "Hey, can I put it on my YouTube so people can find it?" So you actually can find it on my YouTube. There's a
Okay.
copy of it there.
Cool.
Um, but it's this weird kind of underground movie that's gotten like a lot of kind of fanfare over it. And we filmed it in the tuberculosis hospital tunnels in Cincinnati.
Oh wow.
Yeah, most people don't even know about those. It was, I mean, the stretchers and stuff like that were like down there from back in the tuberculosis days.
Oh shit! I bet that was scary.
Yeah,
Yeah, I'd love to see that.
yeah, and how was like it was one of the first kind of big things I did, besides like, capes, was I think I did capes like in the middle of doing Psycho Killer. But the first role I had in it, I'm getting I get well he's like I guess cutting into my head. And there's a trailer of that too, and that's in most of the trailer is me like screaming while he's cutting into me. But and I
Yeah.
it was the first time I was really exposed to horror movies, really, and I didn't realize all these tricks that they did. That was the coolest thing. Like when he takes the skin off my arm, and the sound that they use is like carrots, like the director crunched on carrots.
Oh my god.
But it looks like it amazed me so much. Like it looks like they're peeling the skin off my arm in the trailer. Like it's amazing. And that movie took him uh it feels like 3 or 4 years actually to finish.
Oh
I was
wow.
involved with that for a long time because I actually stepped into more of like assistant director kind of role in that movie, just because became so good friends with the production team. I
Right.
actually played 2 roles in that movie too. There's one role, where I have like this like blondish, brownish hair on the table getting cut into pieces or whatever. And then there's another role where I'm wearing a black wig. So that was really cool for one of my first big things, to actually be able to play 2 roles in it. That was the coolest thing. And a lot of
Yeah.
people didn't know that I was
I,
both of those characters.
well, I'm definitely going to check it out. It's called Psycho Killer, and I'll put the link down in the podcast description so people can find it. I may watch that tonight. That sounds pretty good. Um, okay, so you've told me about your acting debut in an indie horror film. Tell me about how you got in on the other side of the camera, directing movies. I always find that interesting. I've spoken with Henrik at length about his process, so I kind of want to know how you got into directing and your process. What steps you go through when you're putting a film together and you have to deal with all these actors and kind of get everyone on the same page.
Yeah. So I started originally, actually, I wrote plays as a kid. I
Okay.
always loved writing. And as I did, more acting here, and then I started to get involved with, the production crew with Psycho Killer. That was really when I started to realize, I was like, you know what? I bet I could start doing this on my own. Like I could do some of this. So I actually, the first film I made was called Villainy Redeemed, and it was actually a fan film that I had put into a competition. What's the name of it? The Superman celebration that they do in Metropolis, Illinois. They have a
Okay.
fan film competition whenever they do their festival, and so that was my goal to enter it into that. Um, I know I had a blast doing it. It was really scary. It was one of these things where it's really only two actors on screen, and it's actually, I don't want to give away what. Well, I don't know. Whatever. It's a fan film, but
Yeah, 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 yeah. Well, you don't have to spoil it. You can
yeah,
kind of
yeah.
give a description.
But
Uh,
it's the character I play. It's like a twist, and you find out who my character actually really is by the end of it. And
oh.
when I did the premiere for it with everyone who was involved with it, I will never forget that feeling of when that twist happens. You find out who my character really is, and people like being like, "Oh my gosh!" Like, and I get goosebumps right now just thinking about it. There's something about that, like when you write a story and you get to see people enjoy that story. It's just that creative side in you like feels like it has a place where it belongs. And that's what I try to always remind myself of, that feeling I had in that premiere. Like that's what I'm doing it for. Like the scripted podcast I'm writing now. It's like there was a time where John Oak Dalton, who's one of the writers for Smart House, he and for a lot of Henrik stuff,
Yeah,
he
yeah.
had messaged me. He's like, there's I love what you're doing with this podcast. And it was like that same thing. I was like, oh, that's so cool. And even my actors for, the scripted podcast I'm doing, they'll message me. They'll be like, oh my gosh, I'm watching it. And this one part where that's happening, I have all these theories. And these are like actors in the podcast
Oh, that's cool,
are
man.
messaging me that they have theories about characters. And it's so cool. There's something there's something about, like making something, seeing it through, and just seeing people entertained.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Now, you talked about the scripted podcast. I'll put links again below so people can get to it. But if you want to share right now where people can find the scripted podcast and what it's called, I definitely want to put that out there.
So the podcast is called Villainy Unsearchable, and you can get to it if you go to podcast.villainilegacy.com. There's links to it, and those links will also get you to my YouTube. It's kind of its own genre. Like, it's something I kind of let slip out recently, is it's a scripted podcast, but it's technically found footage.
Okay.
Technically, and that's not something I've been open with, but lately, someone actually, I can't remember who it was, they messaged me and they thought that this was like a podcast. I'm like, no, it's scripted. Like, it's not real. Like, the
It's a
characters aren't
story.
real.
It's a
Yeah,
story.
it's a
Yeah.
story.
Yeah.
But I'm always looking for unique ways to tell stories. So I thought, I watched during 2020 my husband, who um, probably wouldn't sit and watch The Lord of the Rings. That it would be too much for him, it'd be
Right,
a
right,
long.
right.
He would sit and he would listen and watch these podcasts during 2020, and I was like, huh. There's people that are into that, and I was like, well, there's a cool thing with a podcast is you can listen to it, you can watch it, it doesn't matter. And most of the time, the people who are into it are into information,
Right.
and they want something with a little more depth. And so I had created this world, what I call the Villainy Legacy world, It's a series of different stories I've written over time. And Villainy Redeemed was my first film that I made. Actually, kind of inspired me to do this. When I realized, why am I wasting this story on making it a fan film? I was like, some of the characters and stories I have in here could be their own thing. They could be
Right.
their own unique characters. And so having all this backstory and story for it, I was like, oh my gosh, I have all this information. I can make a podcast that seems like it's real about a place that's not real. And I'm
That
like,
is
and that's something that no one's really doing. I've heard people talk about, oh, so and so is making this scripted podcast. And then I wait. And a lot of those I've heard about didn't actually happen because there's so much to go into it. Like, you have to create that world like it's real to make the podcast, believable.
right. Yeah,
Um,
I listen to some podcasts. I haven't listened to a lot of scripted podcasts, unless you want to call Weekly Spooky scripted. It's just a spooky stories every week. Shout out to Henrik on that one. He shared a few of my stories, so I appreciate that. But I'll definitely check it out. I've listened to one other one called Pamela Private Eye, and it's the same kind of thing, where she takes you through a serial, kind of ongoing story. So, yeah, I'm definitely going to check it out, and I urge the listeners to do so as well.
I appreciate that.
So, I do want to ask you a couple of questions about a couple of movies I've seen you in. And this one I really enjoyed. And I'm not going to give away the ending or spoil anything, but I had Joni and John Hambrick on last year, and we talked a little bit about Alone in the Ghost House. And I
Yes, I
thought
love
you
that
did
one.
such a great job in this
Oh,
film.
thank you.
Could you tell me about how you got involved in this movie, and maybe we can, if you want to give the listeners a kind of a overview of what character you played and how you fit into the film without us spoiling it too much. There will be light spoilers, so if you haven't seen Alone in the
Gotcha.
Ghost House, go check it out. But I want to get Iabou's take on this. I love John and Joni's take, so I'm getting another person.
So it's such a memorable. It was such as a memorable experience making that movie. There was a script, kind of. It was more like a guide, like a timeline of events that we were going to film, and
Okay,
it was like, I want to say it was this blitz filming that we did over a weekend, and like, as a creative person, it was so great to just be given so much freedom to, like, this is your character, make that character real. This is kind of like what you need to say, and then you fill in all the blanks. Not all actors can do that, but this was a found footage,
right.
so it makes it even more real to make it that way. And I was excited whenever I got asked to do it. I think it was my second movie with Henrik. So I think Sorority Row was the first. I think this one was the second, if I remember right. And I came from UCF. That's where I went to college. It was University
Okay.
of Central Florida. And the people who made what was that first found footage? Um, I just lost it.
Oh, the one. Did you mention it
Yeah.
earlier?
It's no, the found footage that made found footage really big.
Oh, like Blair Witch.
Blair Witch, yes, they went to school at UCF.
Okay.
So, and they had like graduated the year before I started, and so everything was Blair Witch this, Blair Witch that. You'd like go to a class, they were like, the people who made Blair Witch were sitting in these seats, like,
Oh wow. Well, I
like
will
you.
tell you, when that came out, it fooled my ass. I thought that shit was real when I was watching it. I was like,
Yeah, I was freaking out whenever I watched it. It just felt so real, and so
yeah,
getting asked to be in a found footage, I was like beyond excited. Like, I don't think I've never told this to Henrik at all, but I was so excited just because I'm such a big Blair Witch fan.
yeah,
And it was just it was a little scary, I was still kind of like new to the film acting, and there would be things like he'd get the camera on you and be like, this, do this and this, and then come back out. And you're
yeah.
like, oh, okay. So the shot where I'm all like walking in, like the
Mhm.
way we had filmed that was each of us actors, you put the camera on us. It's like, here you go. And you walked in, did your part, and came out. Yeah. So
Oh wow.
it was the coolest way to do it because really, in that sense, you're like, all right, that's it. I'm the character.
Yeah, yeah,
We're gonna do this. This is real, Um, but it's so neat because it's about it's supposed to be this haunted house, and this girl's on. I think she's on a tour to explore haunted houses, if I remember right. Sometimes it's hard for me to remember what got in the movie and what we filmed because
yeah,
you remember both sides of it.
yeah. Well,
Um,
Joni and John played two characters, I think, that traveled around exploring that kind of stuff, and they had like a YouTube channel or something, if I remember
right,
right.
right. And
Yeah,
so they go to pick. I'm supposed to be like one of her close friends, and they show up, and I'm doing stuff on aerial silks.
yeah,
I if I remember right, there's a comment in there like, "Oh, maybe Henrik's character makes it where he's like, well, some of your characters or some of your friends are weird or something like that,
yeah,
and it shows a shot of me on the aerial silks, which I loved how that edited together because when we actually filmed it, it felt a lot more serious. We actually filmed probably me on the silks for what felt like maybe like an hour.
yeah,
So the way like it was like we did all that filming for an hour, and then when I sat and watched the movie, he's like, "Oh, your friends are weird."
yeah.
I was just dying laughing because it's the one quick shot. Um, but
Well, one of the things that stuck out to me in that movie, and some of other Henrik's movies that you've been in Joni and John, was the chemistry between all you guys. You guys all work really well together. And I'm not a movie producer, director, or anything like that, but to me, that seems like something that's maybe hard to find, to get a group like that that is so well meshed. So I like your comments on that.
So it's really cool, like just to go on set with Henrik, and you like it's like just buddies getting back together. You
Yeah,
hear about that. There's all these movie makers like in LA who they're working with the same actors all the time, and it's kind of
right.
like we got our own little version of that here in Dayton. And, it's I think there's a bonding that's happened between all of us because of that. Because
Yeah,
you see us just in scenes together, but we're all like in the background, just pouring out our lives to each other.
yeah,
Downtime,
yeah.
There's it, to me, some of the most fun I have on sets is just catching up with people, waiting for my scenes to be shot.
Yeah, well, if believe it or not, to me, the audience, and it translates on film when you're working together because you're thinking, you're working so well together, and I'm looking at things, and I was like, these people actually like each other, even if their characters don't like each other. You can kind of see in the interactions that you guys are really kind of friends. And I've seen other indie movies where it looks like these two people hate each other, and they're just going through the dialogue to go through the dialogue, but that kinda stands out to me a little bit, so
No, yeah, I think we're all really good friends, everyone who's been in all of Henrik's movies. We see each other from time to time, and it's funny because a lot of times you'll have been in a movie with them, but maybe you never actually met them face to face, and you've talked to them online, and it's funny when you go to finally meet them on set one time where you're both filming at the same time, you
right.
realize this is the first time we've ever actually met.
Oh, wow. Yeah, and that's the other thing, the film tricks that you guys can do, where and I talked to another director a couple weeks ago, where he had the guy that was in Hellraiser. What was the dude's name? Doug Bradley. He shot an entire scene with this guy interacting with these 2 girls in the movie, and they never met each other. This is the way they cut it, and I'm like, "That's crazy," because it looked like they were, like, in the same room talking to each other, so movie magic, right?
Oh, yeah, yeah.
Oh, wow. Well, that's awesome. I will bring up one other movie that, you've been in, and then we'll get off the Henrik connection and get back to, Iabou completely. But I'm bringing this one up because I think I have your signature on this one. This is, Scare Waves.
Okay, yeah.
Yeah, and I think that's your signature right here. I think I got
Oh, yep,
John
yeah, right
your
there,
John
yeah.
Hancock. So
I remember signing those.
tell me a little bit about Scare. Well, I got number 75 out of 100, so hopefully he sold all 100. But I got the 75th one. How was it filming an anthology? This was pretty cool from what I remember. I'm old, so I forget things a lot. I may have to go back and rewatch it. But how was it filming an anthology film?
Well, that one was pretty cool. There was actually I actually played 2 different roles in that, because, uh, something happened with scheduling with people, and I had filmed one role, and then another person couldn't make it for another role. And Henrik was like, "Hey, do you just want to play this role? Because this other person, we could reshoot what role you played over here." So that's so funny. I showed up to shoot one role, and then I want to say it was the next day or something. I think I ended up shooting a
Oh
completely
wow.
different role. It was funny, but it was really cool. I know, like I actually love my husband's part in that movie. Um, like the cool one as a painter and stuff. But
Yeah.
like
Joe Kidd, we'll give him a shout out.
yeah. He did really well in it. It was really funny to play our two roles together. That was kind of weird because, like we didn't know each other. Like that was the whole thing. Like I show up and he doesn't know me. It's so weird to play stuff like that. Usually we're in roles like we know in the movie we know each other because
Right,
people know we
right.
have chemistry off camera, so they make use of it on camera. Um, but that one's really not many people are doing anthologies, and
Yeah.
so I really liked how unique that concept was, and I thought that the way they did it with the radio host was
Yeah.
just the neatest. It was so creative to do it that way.
Yeah, I liked Hambrick as the host. He was pretty cool.
Yeah, he has a voice.
Yeah, I just like that guy. Everything I see him in, I like it. Even the Devil's Trail movie, where it's basically just he and Henrik for the whole film, bitching at each other the whole time, and I was like, I just like listening to him. He is a cool dude. I like John.
He's really nice. He's really nice too.
All right, well, let's get back on to Iabou. What are you working on right now, film wise? Are you working on anything that the folks will be seeing or hearing about soon?
So there's a big thing that's coming out here soon called Smart House. And it's Henrik was a producer on that actually. And
Okay.
it's John Oak Dalton is one of the writers for it, and John Oak Dalton was also directing it. It's shot. My scenes are shot actually mostly in my house,
Oh,
which has
nice.
been in a lot of Hendrix stuff. I don't think people realize that. I actually kind of buy a new couch like every few years because my house is filmed in so much. so so it
Well, you're
actually, and the one Amazon Prime thing, what was it? The gosh, can't remember what it's called. The one with Bigfoot.
oh, Boggy Creek.
Boggy Creek, yeah. A
Yeah.
lot of that was actually filmed at my house.
Oh, really?
Yeah, so
Oh,
it's funny. My
wow.
house, my house, the same rooms keep showing up in films, and people don't even realize it. So, but yeah, Smart House I'm excited about because it's ironic that I love like smart lights and stuff like that, and there's always those jokes that, oh well, what happens if the house tries to take over? Well, that's what the movie's about.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
cool.
And so I play a ASMR podcaster in it that is in a house in a very smart house, and it is a horror movie, so you can guess how it goes.
Nice. When can we expect to see that?
So the first premiere is in June in Iowa, and then they're doing a premiere in Chicago actually. And I'm not sure exactly when the full release of it's going to be, but I do know that they have some distribution already set up for it, so it'll have a full release.
Cool.
It was it's a really cool, different movie. I mean, again, I really like being a part of movies that feel different.
Yeah.
That don't fit in with other stuff. And the way this one's done with having one of the main characters be in a sense like I want to say trapped in a podcast and kind of is like the coolest idea to really do a film. I mean, basically I never interacted on screen with any other characters other than my husband in one really short scene. Um,
That's really
it's
difficult to do. I applaud you for that. That's really difficult to do.
it's
I don't, yeah, go ahead.
yeah, it was. I would say it was. I didn't know how. difficult that was going to be, because it's the first time where I've done something where I am like shooting all day. And I think we did it, was like in 2 or 3 days. All of our stuff that we shot. It was definitely draining. Everything else I've shot, it's always been, there were other characters to shoot at times, and it'd be like, well, can we like I'll look at the schedule ahead of time and I'll be like, can you switch this and with this so I have a little bit of time to recover in
Right.
between. But it takes a lot out of you. And it was awesome whenever they had asked me to be a part of that. And I think from what I remembered, John had told us that he really wanted to, do a film with Joe and I in it, and he had that in mind when he wrote that script specifically.
Well, that's
So
cool.
yeah, that was really awesome, because I've been in little like like blurbs, and Henrik actually jokes that Joe and I are all very frequently his openers. But it is true. It's funny. We've opened for a
Well,
lot of them.
you've opened for this one.
Yeah, opened for that one. Opened for I think, was it Scarecrow County, I
The
think?
Curse of yeah, Scarecrow County. That's it. Yeah,
Yeah,
I've
yeah,
got that
yeah.
movie too. Yeah, I think
Yeah.
I
So
like John. We had him on the show last year. Um, but yeah, so you're the opener for a lot of those, huh?
yeah, so yeah, we joke about that with Henrik all the time. So it was a little weird to be like in a larger role, but it's like I have a day job. I'm an engineer, so it works. Sometimes it's hard to really put all your time into, being a main character in a
Yeah,
project.
yeah.
Um,
Well, I'm
it's
with you
it's
there.
difficult.
I have a day job too, but it's fortunately for me, it's a work from home job, and it allows me time to do other things. So it's pretty cool. But
But
so
I'm sorry. Go ahead.
no, no, no. I was just gonna follow up on that a little bit. How is it working with John? I think he's a pretty cool guy. He's told me about some of the things he's written, and I've watched a few of his a couple of his movies now. I know he's directed one, uh, maybe two, but he's written a few, right?
He has, yeah. He's written quite a few. He's a great writer. He takes to a lot of detail when it comes to filming it. I think this might have Smart House might have been the first time I think he was actually directing. And they always say
Okay,
it's dangerous to let a writer direct. So I can make that joke because I do that all the time. Uh,
that's right.
but no, but it is like just was really cool to be there for him doing that and directing things. Because it was cool to see him learn so much. And he is the sweetest guy. And I know, like, even just when we were doing, I think it was Scarecrow County, he had this lighter that looked like a wrench, and I was like freaking out over it. I was like, "That is the coolest thing I've ever seen." And then, like, literally a week later, he sends us one.
Oh,
We
nice.
film it. He's such a nice guy. He's great to work with. You know what, I wouldn't expect that he wrote horror movies. That's the other thing I like about him. Like, if I just met him in Walmart, I wouldn't think, oh, that guy goes home and writes or
Yeah,
writes like
yeah,
cut 'em up movies.
yeah. He writes some crazy shit too. I mean, it's good. It's good crazy. So yeah, I definitely enjoyed talking to him last year. He was a great guest, and the way his mind works, it just intrigued me. So um, yeah, another interesting thing that I read in your bio, and I'm kind of on the same page with you on this. Maybe not to the degree you are, but I'm kind of a Star Wars nut too. How did you get into
Oh
Star Wars?
gosh, I have been a Star Wars fan so long that I can't even remember like becoming a Star Wars fan. I
Oh
think I was
yeah,
just
same
born
here.
into it.
Yeah, yeah.
I had a really cool experience where I got to be in a movie called The Force Among Us. And
Oh, I think I saw that.
yeah, it's a documentary.
Yeah, I think I have it on DVD actually.
Yeah, I'm actually in that movie. There's a shot where for some reason they filmed all my scenes. I'm in front of a fireplace.
Oh, I'm gonna
So
have to go back and check that out. It's been a minute since I've watched it.
yeah,
Okay.
everyone, like, I'll be at a Star Wars convention and someone will like randomly walk by me and they'll be like, "Oh my gosh, you're in that movie in front of the fireplace. And I'm like,
Well, I'm
yes.
doing that now because I didn't realize it. I'm doing that now. That's pretty cool.
Yeah, it was cool. I was like, no, I'd love to be recognized for actually being in Star Wars, but being recognized for being in a Star Wars movie about fans
Yeah.
is really cool. And that came about because I was actually friends with the person who had been the president of the actual official Star Wars fan club.
Okay.
Yeah, so he had lived down in Cincinnati, and so they were going to interview him, and they said, "Well, hey, you actually are part of this huge Star Wars collectors club down in Cincy. Can you get some of the other people to interview?" And I was like so excited about that when he was like asking who wants to do it. So I was like, "I'll do it."
Oh, wow.
So it was a great experience. I had so much fun with that. I love that movie.
Yeah, I was 8 years old when it came out, and I saw it at 8, and then that just blew my mind as a kid. I mean, even today, the special effects hold up. I mean, I know Lucas went in and he changed a whole bunch of stuff and made it more modern or whatever. But yeah, as a kid, that stuff blew me away. And freaking Darth Vader was such a badass. I was like, ah. But I was a strange kid. I wanted him to win. I was like, yeah, Vader's kicking their ass. But I digress. Yeah, I love Star Wars. I can talk Star Wars. I don't know if I like the last three as much.
Definitely don't have the same feel as the original movies.
No, and even when I look back on the prequels that Lucas did, and I don't want to go on the geek land here, but even those look better to me now than they did then. When I go back and watch them, the ones that he did in the '90s and mid 2000, like 2005. What was it? 99, 2002, 2005. Whenever those three came out, they are better now when I watch them than they were then. And then the newer ones to me just don't have the feel. There's nothing that really draws me into the characters, to be honest with you. But that's me. Sorry.
Well, they have the old movies have this industrial feel to them. And
Yeah, that's it.
something about the way that movies were made back then, it made like that Star Wars universe felt so real. And I don't know, maybe it's just the brain could detect all the CG. I don't know if it like you kind of lose a little bit of it because of that, or if it's just that the newer movies are kind of too bright and shiny, maybe.
Yeah, no, I completely agree with you, and I see that in other films too. And that's why I kind of like indie. I, I watch mainstream horror. Don't get me wrong, but I really gravitate to indie horror because most of them don't have budgets for CGI and all those big bang special effects. It's all practical effects that they're making on the fly, and they have bulbs under shirts and they're squeezing blood and all that stuff. I like that shit. That's the kind of stuff I
Yeah.
like. So, but
Well, that was what
anyway.
was great when I worked on Psycho Killer. Like, I think you would love that movie because to get the shot where they were peeling the skin off my arm, like Randy, who made that movie, he was one of those old school filmmakers in the sense that like I laid on my arm behind my arm for probably 2 hours on that stainless steel table just so that we could get that shot where it looked like my arm. It's like that's like old school. Like today
Oh
they would
yeah.
just CG that.
Yeah, yeah,
That they don't do that anymore. It's yeah.
yeah. Well, one of the things I don't like when in CGs, like they cut somebody's head off or shoot them in the head or whatever, stab them, and you see that fake ass blood that pops out. I want the real thing. I want the real fake thing. But anyway, all right. So what I want to do now is wait a minute. Let me see here. I have something else in the notes. You attended multiple Dragon Cons and Mega Cons. So I the only cons I really go to are the horror cons. So, are you into going to conventions? Is that something you enjoy to do? And if so, do you have an interesting story from going to a con?
So, I love. It just there's something to be said about going to all those conventions, just being surrounded by people like yourself that just don't care that they're nerdy. Like you can
Yeah,
just be yourself, be whoever. And like then there's places like a Dragon Con where there are so many different variations of what people are into. You like all the like people doing gaming who can go there. You got all the people who are into Star Wars, people who are into anime, people who are into horror. Just like Dragon Con was ridiculous with that, and it never shut down. Like that convention would go 24 hours. Like you would joke there, you would change costumes going to Dragon Con probably 3-4 times a day
Oh, wow.
because it would like the family friendly costumes would be during the day.
Right, right.
And then as time gets later, the costumes would get a little more like the horror ones would get really
Yeah.
cool, you
Yeah.
get like very kind of like risque costumes going on. The rules start to go away as it starts to get later, but just to see that many different like versions of fandom in one place and to see so many people get along,
Yeah.
so many different people, I think that's probably what I liked the best about it. And like people over the last couple of years, they've gotten so up in arms at each other and so divided. And I just, I've started to go back to conventions, just because I miss that.
Yeah.
I miss just being somewhere, being accepted. It doesn't matter. I mean, the last convention I was going to, I was walking around, I ran into someone like I worked with.
Yeah. Yeah.
And it's like, what? You start to find these people have this other secret life. It's like the secret life of going to conventions that people have.
Well, like the Days of the Dead convention, I love going to that. I sell my books there, and it's like you said, there's all walks of life, all kinds of different people. They're all dressed up in their favorite horror character's costume or whatever. You see everything. You see everything, and it is the quintessential "don't judge a book by its cover" kind of deal because they're the nicest people you'd ever
Yeah.
want to meet for the most part.
Yeah.
For the most part, you get I almost said assholes, but you can get jerks everywhere.
No, you do
Um,
all kinds.
but they're very rare and few and far between. And like all the people I meet there, I've gained a lot of readers there, made a lot of friends there, and I love going to conventions too. So they're very awesome, very awesome. Okay, Iabou, what I want to do now is I want to kind of be quiet a little bit and I want you to plug anything you got out there, where our listeners can find you, what you have coming out. We've talked about some of this during the podcast, but I kind of want to recap everything because I want everyone to focus their attention on you and where they can find your stuff and where they can listen to you. And I'll be quiet.
Well, I mean, if anyone wants to follow me on social media, you can pretty much find me at Iabou, Iabou, on just about anything. I've pretty much curtailed that username on everything I can think of. Uh, you know, I'm I'm always writing a lot of stuff. I probably have stacks of scripts this tall in a well, yeah, that's probably an understatement, but just the things I've written that I want to get out there and get filmed. My podcast right now that I'm doing is the biggest thing that I'm really working on. And it's again at podcast.villainy.legacy.com. Or you can just search Villainy Unsearchable. It's so funny. I just said it like the character says. I felt that inside of me when that
There you
happened.
go. It'll
Yeah.
be in the links below too, guys. So I'll
Yeah.
put it there.
And I just, I want to tell people too with Villainy Unsearchable is even if you're not into podcast, I try to keep the character very entertaining. They're all structured where the beginning of it is just a lot of the facts that you need to know to survive the end of the podcast, and the end of the podcast is usually where you see interaction with characters. There are no rules in Villainy Unsearchable, and I've tried to keep it that way. I'm a big person on like free speech and expression, and I started my whole Franked Up Films group, which you can go to frankedupfilms.com to see links to a lot of my movies. My whole goal there is just to at least have one shot in everything that I write and direct that is surprising, like a what just happened moment, because I think movies are supposed to be how we escape from reality, and I think we need to be careful of keeping that kind of stuff too safe because it is our our expression, especially for creative people. So that's the biggest thing. FrankedUpFilms.com. Villainy Unsearchable, which, as I say in the podcast, is the most secret podcast on the internet. But if you search Villainy Unsearchable, I think it's the only one you'll find.
Well, I'll like I said, I'm gonna make sure I include links to everything. So frankupfilms.com, I'll stick that in there, making it a personal to watch. What was that first movie you told me?
Psycho Killer.
Yeah, Psycho Killer. I've got it jotted down over here somewhere.
Yeah,
Psycho
Psycho
Killer.
Killer is a great one. It keep the views on that sucker keep going up and up, and I'm always messaging the director. I'm like, can you believe what's going on?
Well, I'm going to check it out. I'm going to let you know what I think about it. Sounds like I'm going to enjoy it though.
I really hope you do. I think you will. I think you will. And the other thing would be like Smart House. I really think it's a different kind of movie. It's something people can relate to now with, you know, everyone doing like podcasts and stuff like that. It's something that really like something like this could go down. It's a very like modern version of, I think, some story themes that we've seen in the past, and so I get excited when that stuff gets modernized. John and the other writers have done such a great job of really modernizing a theme that's been used in the past but not updated, and they've updated it. It's great.
Well, I will check it out as soon as it is available, and urge the audience to do the same. It's premiering, you said, in June.
In June, and there's a premiere in June and a premiere in July, and one's in Chicago, one's in Iowa.
Gotcha. And then after that, it'll be distributed where we can all find it.
Right. Pinner might talk him into a local viewing. You never know.
Oh, that's cool. Well, Iabou, it was awesome having you on today's show. I've been trying to get you on, and it hasn't been your fault. It's been mine trying to get the scheduling right because I'm old and I forget things. So I really appreciate you coming on today.
I had a blast. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. It was great. And I am Charles Campbell, author. You can find my books at valleyboypublications.com. You can find me on Instagram under Charles Campbell, author. We also have a Horror 421, the podcast Facebook page. You can find us there. All the links are available on valleyboypublications.com as well. And that's it for this week's episode of Horror 421, the podcast. Thank you once again, Iabou. And you guys have a great rest of your week, night, day, whatever you're at. And we'll see you next time on Horror 421, the podcast. Thank you.
We hope you had a horrific time, lovelies. Thank you for tuning in to Horror 421, the podcast. Be sure to like us on YouTube and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts.